Today, we're in Decatur, Illinois, and this place has a lot to offer. It's home to an impressive Wabash depot, a massive Norfolk Southern yard, a Canadian National yard, the Decatur and Eastern Illinois Railway, a double diamond where all three railroads meet, and a Wabash-built coaling tower from the days of steam. Our first catch of the day is a grainer, and while the train itself ain't too impressive, its schedule is. This particular train is headed to an ADM grain elevator, and once it gets there, ADM only has 12 hours to load the hoppers before a new crew comes and drives the train back to whence it came. These short grainers work very similarly to local freights, except they only deal with one customer and one product at a time. There's no switching to be done at the customer, and the power stays attached to the cars once the train arrives at its destination. Up next, we see a mixed freight coming from Kansas City, being led by two AC-44 rebuilds. It can sometimes be difficult to tell the difference between an original Dash 9 and an AC-44 rebuild, because they almost have the exact same car body. Fortunately, Norfolk Southern makes differentiating between the two very easy. All of NS's remaining Dash 9s have a 9000 series number, but all 700 or so of the AC-44 rebuilds have a 4000 series number. Of course, you could also look at the cab, which will tell you the locomotive's exact model, but going by the numbers is a way quicker means of identification. It also works better at a distance, and from any angle. At the end of the train, there was a massive string of 86-foot boxcars, which are always awesome to see, because half the time they wear fallen flag liveries. These rolling warehouses were originally designed to haul auto parts, and on this stretch of track, they do. But 86-foot boxcars are far more versatile than that, since they're well equipped to haul any lightweight bulk commodity out there, such as furniture, household appliances, and even tires. These boxcars are a dead giveaway as to where this train is coming from, since Kansas City is a massive hub for the automotive industry. One thing you may have noticed is that several of these boxcars have a less than stellar appearance. How come railroads let these big old things rot away until they're forced to do something about it? Well, it's the same reason we still have Santa Fe war bonnets, Southern Pacific engines, and GT Jeeps. Money. Railroads are cheap, 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 and they take the saying, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it," to heart. Maybe a little too much sometimes. Once that train was gone, rail traffic hit a bit of a lull, but that's no problem, because there was still plenty of other interesting railroad stuff happening in the area, such as this group of Gandy dancers getting ready to replace one of the switch tracks on this double main crossover. This prefabricated section of track this excavator is moving was shipped in on a special flat car, purpose-built for hauling pre-made railroad tracks. These Gandy dancers ain't actually replacing any track today, they're just getting the new pieces in position, but it's still awesome to see. What's really interesting is that there's no cranes here, so it's up to the skilled excavator operators to get these track pieces off the flat car without damaging them, which is not easy considering the tracks are stored at a nearly 90-degree angle. Not too far from the Gandy dancers sat an iconic piece of railroad equipment. It was a self-propelled maintenance away crane that impressively still wears Wabash markings. I really wonder what these railroad cranes are used for these days, seeing as how they've almost been rendered obsolete by more versatile and mobile crane types. If anyone has any information on what railroad cranes are still used for, please let us know in the comments. A little while later, rail traffic picked back up, with a transfer move out of the Canadian National Yard executed by the Decatur and Eastern Illinois Railway. The DNEIR is a Class 3 short line that is very young. It was created just 5 years ago in 2018, after CSX decided to auction off their low-traffic Decatur and Danville secondary subdivisions. But businesses along the route couldn't be left high and dry with no rail service, so ALCO, the winning bidder, created the Decatur and Eastern Illinois Railroad to take up work along the route. And so far, things have been going just fine. The DNEIR does lots of work as a middleman here in Decatur, interchanging cars with Norfolk Southern and Canadian National on a daily basis, as well as serving its own customers. The leaser locomotive working this train is a very interesting fallen flag. It started out as a Southern Pacific engine, but was later sold to the Iowa, Chicago, and Eastern Railroad, which was probably one of the shortest-lived railroads ever. The Iowa, Chicago, and Eastern, or ICE for short, was a Class 2 regional line that only operated from 2002 to 2008. It was so short-lived because its parent company, the Dakota, Minnesota, and Eastern Railroad, got bought by Canadian Pacific, who wanted more access to commodities such as coal, grain, and petroleum products in the Midwest. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd venture to say that ICE engines are some of the rarest fallen flags you can find, since they came from a relatively small and incredibly short-lived railroad. While the Decatur and Eastern Illinois Railway was taking care of business in the yard, one of the rarest trains in America came through. This is NS 226. One of only 2 road railers left in the whole United States. When road railers debuted in the mid-50s, they revolutionized the way semi-trailers were transported by rail, because back then, intermodal service didn't really exist, and all semi-trailers were shipped via piggyback. But road railers completely changed this by using special trucks that lock to the bottom of purpose-built semi-trailers. With this setup, the cargo doubled as a rail car, eliminating the need for piggyback flat cars and the large cranes that load them. Road railers are extremely efficient, cheap, and lightweight trains that are also inherently theft-proof because the trailers sit so close together. Also, during their heyday, they didn't even need cabooses, which cut costs even further. So why has this genius idea almost died out completely? Used to, you could find road railers everywhere, but now, NS 225 and 226 are the only ones left. So what happened? Well, for starters, road railers are cumbersome to assemble and disassemble, requiring special facilities to do so, which railroads today ain't too keen on using. They're also kind of risky to use. If one truck goes bad, you can't just remove it like a bad order car, so the entire train is fouled. And of course, the main cause of their demise is double-stack intermodals, which are far and away more efficient and easier to use. If you would like to try and catch one of these unique trains, they run between Detroit and Kansas City every day except Friday. 226 is the eastbound and 225 is the westbound. Once that train was gone, I decided to pay a visit to the Decatur locomotive shops, and they had some pretty good stuff, such as these real shiny CPKC EMDs. It's very unusual to see Class 1 yard engines away from their home tracks, so it makes you wonder just what in the world these locomotives are doing here. We also see some nice BNSF 4 in power and an SD70M-2. Now, these are quite interesting. In the same way the AC44 is the Dash 9's AC counterpart, the SD70M-2 are the SD70 Ace's DC counterpart. While it can be very difficult to tell an SD70 Ace from an SD70M-2, the inverter box will tell you all you need to know. If it has grills, it's an Ace. If it's a solid sheet of metal like what we see here, it's an M-2. And for the final catch of the day, we see an SD40-2 tethered to a slug. If you think this slug looks a little strange, you'd be right, because it's actually a rebuilt ALCO engine. 855 started life in 1957 as an RSD-12, working for the famous Pennsylvania Railroad, but was later rebuilt into this MT6 by Conrail sometime in the 70s. Even after 66 years on the rails, this engine is still going strong and will likely be around for decades to come. Thanks for watching. If y'all enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Also, maybe pass yourself by the merch shop. Anyways, till next time.